everyone, Dave here, Fit and Healthy Forever. With the summer coming along now, I want to just speak to you about skin cancer. Now, there's been a lot of things in the papers and magazines and things about skin cancer. So there's three questions here that I wanted to ask. First of all, should we avoid the sun? Secondly, does the sun cause skin cancer? And thirdly, how can we maximise our health and life expectancy while preventing skin cancer? So okay, let's have a look at some facts and studies. The US Surgeon General and the American Academy of Dermatology and many other cancer organisations put out a statement recently saying that you should completely avoid the sun. Not just get a few minutes here and there, half an hour, or be careful. Complete avoidance of the sun. Now, from the research that I've done recently over the last couple of days, I think this guy must be smoking something. So, if you have complete avoidance of the sun, what does that do, or what doesn't that do? They say it's bad for life expectancy. It isn't. It's the opposite. And most of these people that put these things out, they do it for profit, not for your or my health. So you usually reverse what they say. So let me ask a question here. I'll give you the answer obviously, but what do you think would be worse? Working in an office, sitting in a cubicle all day and getting no sunlight, or smoking? Which would you say is worse for your life expectancy? Would you be surprised to know that they're both equal? So smoking and sitting in a cubicle in an office all day working have the same life expectancy because you're devoid of sunlight, which is very important. So I've got a lot of notes I've made here from research that I've found, so I'll give you some facts and figures and quotes. First of all, the Journal of Internal Medicine in Sweden said sun avoidance is actually as dangerous as smoking when it comes to cancer and overall mortality risk. Now, non-smokers who avoided the sun had the same life expectancy as smokers who got sunlight. This study was done with 30,000 women and it was done over a 20-year period. So it's not some 2 months study on 50 people. This was a long, in-depth study, and it came up with some quite revealing facts. One of the strengths of the study was that more sun you get, the more benefits you get. So the healthier you get, it lowers all-risk mortality rates. So Dr. Lindquist, who quoted that 3 known lifestyle factors that endanger health are smoking, being overweight and inactive. Now, we probably all knew this, but now he's saying there's a fourth one: avoiding sunlight is a risk factor. So if you could avoid sun exposure and take a vitamin D supplement, would that suffice? Not really. It would help, but vitamin D supplement isn't the be all and end all. The sun hitting the skin does a lot more than just activate vitamin D. So the sun exposure slashes your risk of cancers, all cancers, by 67%. That is huge. And very few people die of skin cancer. Okay, it is still a cancer, it's not nice, it's very dangerous, but in the grand scheme of cancers, it's way down the list, way down the list. So it's still a concern, but it's not as much of a concern as these people are making it out to be. So when sunlight hits your skin, it activates vitamin D, which kills off potential cancerous cells. That's the first thing it does. Normal vitamin D levels are 40 to 60 nanograms per litre of blood. That's what you should, if you had your test done, that's what you would be looking for. Now, another couple of facts. Chemotherapy has very few peer-reviewed studies on its efficacy, whereas vitamin D has got over 830 peer-reviewed studies relating to cancer. So why are people worried about the sunlight and vitamin D? They shouldn't be, when it's way down the list and it's got studies saying that its efficacy is very valid. So basically, if you were to do the opposite of what this US Surgeon General is saying, that would probably do you more good than harm. So it's like I said in a previous video, when you look at the food pyramid from many years ago, you can now flip that on its head, and this is the same sort of thing. They're doing this, they're telling you these things because they do it for profit with the pharmaceutical companies. They want you to take drugs and medicines and pills and tablets. They don't want you to be fit and healthy. It's not in their interests of profits. So don't always take what these people say as gospel. To be fair, your general GPs, they're not doing anything untoward. They just don't know. They don't look to the research themselves. They take what the peers tell them and they dole that out, whether it be prescriptions, tablets, information. If they did their own research, they probably wouldn't be giving a lot of this information out. So to carry on then, the benefits. Sunlight benefits go way beyond vitamin D. I always thought, and everyone else, that it activates vitamin D in your body, which helps with, they're now saying, colds, flus and all sorts of things. It goes way beyond that. It lowers all-cause mortality risk. It reduces the risk of heart disease drastically. Nitric oxide production, which it helps, that dilates the blood vessels, which it means it widens the blood vessels. So consequently, the heart doesn't have to work as hard when your blood vessels are dilated. Now, I know fitness professionals and bodybuilders use nitric oxide supplements to widen the veins so that they can get blood and nutrients to the muscle quicker. So I know that sort of thing works. Also, it's a mood enhancer. So you know, when you go in the sun, you go on holiday, you just feel on top of the world, you feel great. There's no better feeling. So it is a mood enhancer as well. It's also good for wound healing. So that's another thing. It fights infections, it's anti-inflammatory, it's necessary for proper sleep. Melatonin is released dependent on sun exposure during the day. So if you avoid the sun, you're not going to release melatonin, which helps with your sleep. So, should we avoid the sun? From the research that I've seen and read, absolutely not. Definitely not. There's no research to say avoiding the sun helps you to live a long, healthier life. Now, as I've said before, I've sort of pushed this channel towards fitness, healthy living, good diet, being active. I want to see people live long, healthy lives. I want to live one myself. It pains me that my wife's disabled. I have to go to the hospital with her at times for appointments, and I see the amount of people that sit in there waiting in queues, and I just wonder to myself how many of these people could have avoided these debilitating diseases by just living healthier lifestyles. But it's ignorance, because no one's ever told them that this matters. I grew up the same as people in my era, thinking that 3 square meals a day, doesn't matter what you eat, doesn't matter whether you exercise, when you retire you put your feet up. It's the worst thing you can do. You put your feet up when you retire, you degenerate vastly, very quickly. So anyway, back to this. Part of this study found that women who used sunbeds actually lived longer. So where's all that come from? Where we were told you must avoid sunbeds at all costs, they're going to kill you, they're going to give you skin cancer, blah blah blah. Well, apparently not. The only way you're going to get skin cancer through the sun or through sunbeds is if you chronically burn yourself, which surely common sense would say you wouldn't want to do that anyway. So too much sun exposure and getting chronically burned does contribute to skin cancer, but we wouldn't be doing that anyway. You wouldn't purposely do that, so that's a no-brainer for me. How could we evolved and survived as a species if we were that vulnerable to something that humans have been constantly exposed to for their entire existence? We were put on this planet with sunlight, with all these vegetables and healthy living, and why don't we use them? Good food. Instead, McDonald's and the like have come along, fast food on every corner. People think that's the way forward because it's easy, it's fast, it's easy. People don't want to take the time to make proper food, or to go and find proper food, or do exercise. Busy lifestyles, everybody wants everything yesterday. They don't want to wait. So this is the sort of life we live in now, and you have to do what's best for you, not what everyone else does or what everyone else thinks you should do. It's your life. You get one shot at it as far as we know. So you need to take this on board and look at these things. I found this easily. These studies in America, there's dozens of them on the internet, on YouTube. Anybody can find them. I find them because I find them interesting, and I dole them out to you guys, hoping that someone will take notice. I can't help it if you don't, but I would like to think some people listen. So, like all living things, we need sunshine, and that source came from Kaiser Permanente Wellness. That was his quote. We need it, and we need to use it. So, if you bear in mind there's 3 sorts of skin cancer, melanoma is the worst, it's the deadliest. Okay, that's a fact. So, another fact is outdoor workers have decreased risk of melanoma compared to indoor workers. How does that work? If they're outdoors all the time in the sun, how come they're at less risk than someone who's indoors? Doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But that's why we can flip what these so-called experts are saying on the head, because you've got to bear in mind they are geared towards profit making. They're not interested in your health or my health, they're interested in profit making. Once you're on drugs for a typical disease these days, you're on them for life. I've said this before. Once they've got you, it's like they squeeze the life out of you. They've got you on these drugs and you will never come off them unless you choose to come off them. If you take their recommendations, you will never come off them. And I don't know any drug yet that's prolonged people's life. It may take you out of pain for a short while. It may, in the risk of cancer, it may take away the tumour. It's not going to take away the underlying cause. So it's a short-term fix. And you know, you need to be your own scientist in a way and look at these diets and look at trends with prescriptions and medical advice and make your own decisions. It's your life. They're not interested in your life. They're interested in selling drugs to you or selling them to the doctors and the institutions that dole them out to you. So, to carry on then, how come melanoma, how come if it's so dangerous and it's caused by the sun, it appears on parts of the body that are generally covered up, not that are open to the sunlight all the time? That's been proved as well. Where's the sense in that? That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So, vitamin D we know has a protective effect. If dermatologists were correct about using sunscreen to avoid melanoma, how come the last 30 years, since we've had lots more sunscreens around, we have more melanoma around? More people getting it, more people dying of it. Again, doesn't make sense, does it? But we take, because we trust in doctors and their peers and institutions, we take this as whatever they tell us as read. And it's only since I've had a bit more time on my hands, people who know me know I've got more time on my hands now, I've looked into this for myself, and there's some startling revelations out there in studies if you take the time to look for them. So, avoid sunscreens that have oxybenzone in them. At all costs, it's toxic to the body. But again, they're not going to tell you this. It's toxic to the body. You should not be using that. SP factors only protects you from UVB rays. Now, they are the ones that activate vitamin D. So if it's protecting you, then it's not going to let you activate vitamin D in your body. The UVA is the one that has more of a skin aging effect, and yet a lot of your sunscreens now don't cover UVA. So when you're buying sunscreens, you need to look that it covers UVA, and you need to make sure that it hasn't got this oxybenzone in it. So your top brands, I believe Pease Buin is one of them that's got it in. You need to look at these before you buy them. As I said, with summer coming up, you need to be looking for these things. Make a start somewhere. So the second question was, does the sun cause skin cancer? It's not as simple as just yes or no, but what it is the conclusion from the studies that I've seen. It doesn't cause skin cancer. The non-stop burning of the skin, a poor immune system, a toxic lifestyle, i.e. diet and activity, helps to cause skin cancer. So if you notice, all these things that I'm doing, these short videos, they all go back to diet and lifestyle. A doctor said some time ago that if the truth was known, almost every disease and ailment can be traced back to your diet. They say, for instance, oh, he died of heart attack. What caused the heart attack? Probably the diet over many, many years of poor diet and poor lifestyle and inactivity. So yes, it's labelled as heart attack, but that's not the underlying cause. So again, we need to look deeper into these things because we're taking it as read what the doctors are telling us. So how can we maximise our health and life expectancy while preventing skin cancer? Get regular sunlight. It lowers all-cause mortality risk. That's been proved in this study. Avoid severe sunburn. It's a no-brainer. That's what helps to cause skin cancer as well, but we shouldn't be doing that anyway. You don't deliberately go out in the sun to get sunburnt, so to speak. What you should be doing and could do is you could get a light shade of pink, and that usually signifies that you've had enough sun. So if you're not used to the sun, 20 to 30 minutes of sun exposure 2 to 4 times a week is what they're recommending. But when they say this, they're saying also get as much of your body exposed. Get your tank top on or your shirt off, get your shorts on, no socks on, but make sure you cover up your face and your head because there's very little body fat around there to protect you, so the skin is thinner around your face and your head. So you need to cover those up. Again, no brainer. I, for one, my top of my ears and my head gets burnt straight away. So you just need to use common sense with that. As I say, expose as much of the skin as you can, avoid facial areas. As a guide, you can go a light shade of pink and that's enough sun. During the winter months, especially, supplement with vitamin D3 and vitamin K2. They work synergistically together. So because there's less sunlight available in the winter months, use those supplements wisely. But if you're getting enough sunlight in the summer, you don't need to supplement with vitamin D or vitamin K2. If you wanted to sort of cover your bases and be sure, you could take a small amount of vitamin D3, but if you're getting the sunlight every day, probably not in the UK as much, but when they say sunlight, it doesn't necessarily have to be blazing sun, it just has to be the sun has to be out and sky blue and you're getting the rays. So, in a nutshell, the sun isn't as dangerous as everyone makes it out to be, otherwise we wouldn't have evolved as a species because we've been exposed to it for the entire existence of the human species. And it's only since the early 1900s that these things have come about. And then we started developing sunscreens and so on, and then we've got more melanoma than we had before sunscreens. And to me, all this points to the fact that what we're doing to try and prevent things is actually accelerating them or making them worse. I've got more studies coming on cancers and diabetes and things like that. These to me are shocking eye-openers. And there's some of these studies that the people that I get them from in America off the websites, they're wellness clinics. And what they were trained as GPs, the same as we've got in this country, but they've bucked the trend by questioning things and saying, well, this can't be right. What about this? What about that? And they're being called quacks because they're saying they don't know what they're talking about. So some of them have been struck off and they've opened up their own wellness clinics, and they take people who've been diagnosed with things like diabetes or cancers or things like that, in the early stages, and they work with them on diet and lifestyle and rest and recovery and just general good things in life, good food. And they've had something like over 90% success rate. Obviously, if the cancer's taken a hold and it's too far down the line, they can't do a lot about it. But in the early stages, they are proving that people, if they just change the lifestyle, they can reverse these things or at least lessen the effects of them. And if you do that now, you're lessening any chance you ever had of getting them in the first place. So it's all in our hands. I'm convinced of that. It's all in our hands. We just need to go outside the box. Don't just say, my doctor says this, so I have to do this. Think for yourself. It's your life, as I said. You only get one shot at it as far as we know. So do your own research. It doesn't take a lot of time. Instead of sitting watching football or whatever it is, take an hour and go on YouTube and go on to ihealthtube.com. You'll find so much information on there. And a lot of them doctors, as I say, have bucked the trend and been kicked out of the medical associations for it. So, on that note, I'll end this little rant, but I hope you found some of this interesting and it sort of made you think a bit more about it. So until the next video, stay fit and healthy forever, and as always, like, subscribe and leave me any comments you see fit. And again, tell all your friends. You don't have to believe what I say, but if you want to go and prove me wrong, as I've said before, come back with research to say to me, Dave, you're wrong about this. This is the research I found. And I'll certainly look at it. I don't take everything here as gospel, but nobody's proven it wrong yet, so I have to take it as it's pretty good. So until the next time, thanks again for listening, and I hope you found this useful. Okay, bye.